Hello and welcome. I'm going to record a walkthrough today of This Spreadsheet is a Nightmare, the February MECC weekend battle. This is the Varsity edition. It's based on an original case by the same name by Harry Seiders, which was in the Excel World Cup Road to Las Vegas in 2024, a couple of years ago. I think it's the same flavor text as the original. You thought it would be a good idea to sit back and watch the Excel Championship while eating pizza, ice cream, and ghost peppers. That combination has led you here into a waking nightmare, a spreadsheet file with all kinds of frightful problems. I should say, I'm going to post this video on my channel. It's also going to go up on the MECC channel, and if you're not already subscribed there, I definitely recommend it because they post solutions by me and various other kind of pro players, professors, and others of this and basically all the other MECC cases. And the other thing is, I was hoping to record my my kind of live attempt, which I did last night, but that video came out kind of scrambled. So this is, alas, a do-over. But anyway, so I'll come back to the bonuses at the end. We'll dive in at the start. So level 1, easy. Dreams and nightmares can have hidden messages. Remove the unwanted character to reveal the hidden word. Example 1, removing all the carrots reveals some ifs. So all you need to know here is that there's such a thing as the substitute formula. You tell it the starting text, you tell it the text you want to remove, and you tell it what you want to replace that with, which in this case can be blank, or you can literally just leave that argument blank. And it'll do that. What you can't do, incidentally, is not put in that argument at all. It won't like that. But if you put in a comma and then leave nothing there, it'll work fine. I think in the original this was some like message about you slept late and now you're missing class or something. But anyway, this is Excel functions because perhaps missing class is not acceptable in MECC. I'm kidding. Okay. Level 2, easy. This isn't such a bad dream. Using the data in the data tab, sum the total units sold for the following combinations of item and color. So we've got gears and gold. And we want to know how many units sold. So first thing I'm going to do, just make this into a table. Makes it much easier to work with. There's only one table in the file, so I'm just going to name it T to make it quick to write the formulas. And then here I want to sum. So I want to sum units sold where the item is this and where the color is this. So if you're not used to tables, it's worth just kind of dwelling on that for a second. So if I just type T, I mean, if I had a longer name, it would offer an autocomplete. I don't need to here. And then if I type an opening square bracket, that allows me to reference either the date column, the item column, the color column, the units sold, or all these things that start with hash are all the data, meaning including the headers, just the data, the headers, the totals, etc. But it just makes it much faster to kind of do lookups and sumifs and other things without having to keep flipping over here to select a range of data. So that should be fine. Let's just check our hints. So this should be 171,000 something, 174,000 something, 119,000 something. All looks fine. Okay. Level 3. This level's task isn't so scary. Using the data in the data tab, determine the units sold during the 7 days centered on the date provided. Okay, so the main thing here is we just need to have a way to get those 7 days. So the 7 days centered on the day provided. Well, I guess let's start with a couple of basic things. So this 4th of April 2025 is, if you can change the format to see it, or you can do other things, or you can just like copy value, paste it to another cell. This is 45,751, which is the number of days that have passed since the 1st of January 1900, with a slight asterisk that there's a leap day mistaken. But anyway, the point is it's a day count, and so the next day is just that plus 1, and the previous day is just that minus 1. And so if I want the 7 days centered around this, I can use the sequence function. So sequence 7 will give me 7 consecutive numbers. Then I just want my starting number to be 3 days before this, so that minus 3. And that comes out as numbers, but if you Control-Shift-3, it'll turn it into dates. So now the 7 days centered on the 4th of April are from the 1st to the 7th of April. And once I have that, I can then do a sumifs just like before. So I can say sum of T units sold, where T date. The one downside of the autocomplete of the field names here is it wiped out the sequence there because I guess because it took it as part of the text that I was trying to write. But anyway, I can just put sequence back. So I can do that. I convert those back into numbers. One thing just to mention here, so sumifs is very happy to take a dynamic array for the criteria. it's not happy to take it for the criteria range or the sum range. So just think anything that has range in here has to be a literal range of cells in the worksheet, not an equivalent set of data. So in other words, if I tried to do this on sort of tdate, for example, it is not happy with that. But for criteria, it's totally fine. So this is the number of units sold where the date is the 1st of April, 2nd of April, 3rd of April, 4th of April, and so on. And then I just need to add those together. Whoops, not with substitute, but with sum. Just take that, cut, bring it over here. I like to work over here where there's more space, but then just bring it back here when I'm done. Okay, so 222, 278, 242, 222, 278, 242. Good. Next level. Level 4. Uh-oh, a gremlin just showed up. In this level, there appears to be a problem with the dates provided and the number of days varies. Using the data in the data tab, determine the units sold during the number of days centered on the date provided. Okay, got it. So we have, yes, I remember this. We have this sort of messy text date. Now, one thing to notice here, and I checked it last night, I'll just show you again now, is that they're all the same length. So, it's possible, for example, something like this could be encoded as OG1, or, something like this could be encoded as 23 dec 27. But as it is, they're all of the same length. And that is quite handy because it means that you can do something like mid of this 5-3, which means, take characters starting from position 5, give me 3 characters, and that'll give you the month from each of those. But we're going to need to turn that into a number, and to do that, we're going to want a list of the months. So honestly, very good chance the easiest way to do this would just be to type them out in order, but I like to be formulaic, so let's do, we'll do date of 2025, sequence 12, 1. So date for a given year, a given month, and a given day will give you a date. Because this is an array, it'll broadcast out to an array. So that's the 1st of each month from January to December. And then we're going to text that as MMM, which is the short form month. And then we'll just call that months. Okay, so now I want to convert this to a date, call it date real. And I'm going to do that again with the date function. So we're going to say date, the year is the left of this 4 to get the first 4 characters. Now that will give you, if I highlight it here, you'll see, will you see? Why don't you see? I don't know why it's not doing that. Okay, never mind. If I hit F9, you'll see that'll give you 2025 as text, as a string. So a lot of the time, if you're going to work with that, like if you're going to sum it or something like that, then you need to do something to convert it into a number. I think we'll come to that in some of the examples later. But in this case, because I'm putting it into a function that is expecting a number in this position, it'll actually work fine even if I don't. So that's the year. Then to get the month, we're going to do mid of this, starting at position 5, taking 3 characters. That's going to give me the text month, and then I want to X match that against my list of months. And that's going to give me my month number. And then finally, the day number is just going to be right to get the last 2 characters from here. So that's my real date cleaned up. And then once I have that, I can basically just use the formula from above. So I'm aiming for 176,805. So this is going to be my starting point for the date. And then instead of 7, I want 5 days. And instead of 3, I want 5 minus 1 divided by 2. And that matches. So we're happy. And let's see, 847, 237, 413, 847, 237, 413. Good. Okay, level 5. Oh no, the gremlin and a goblin friend are causing more trouble. In this level, each game has a set of 50 numbers in a single cell separated by semicolons. A problematic character appears within or around each number. Each game has a single unique problematic character, e.g. in example 5, the problematic character is tilde. Ignore any leading zeros for a number, sum the numbers. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. It's kind of one of the things I like about text questions is that there are so many different ways to do them. Problem characters. The first thing I would want to do is extract the problem character. So again, lots of ways to do it. I think the nicest way, if you can get comfortable with it, is regex extract. So I want to extract from here, and the pattern that I want is I want something that is not. Attention please for a gate change. sorry, just paused for a second there so you wouldn't get the loud announcement. So 0 to 9 will match any digit 0 to 9, and a semicolon will match a semicolon, and this not, this caret in front of it makes it not. So I want to match any character that is not a digit or a semicolon, and it'll just pull out the first match, which in this case is a tilde, and then later it's percent and all these other weird things. I don't know why these ones right align. Is that just stored alignment here? No. Interesting. So these must be, in some sense, numbers. But no, even though they're text, I don't know why they're right aligned. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's a very neat way to get it with regex, but let's say we don't know regex. A nice way to strip out, in the pre-regex world, all the troublesome things is with text split. And that's because text split, where it has a delimiter, so let me just show you the regular way first. So if I text split on that, oops, move it over, that's going to split this every time there's a semicolon. It's going to break it into a new line, and so you get this, which we're going to use in a minute probably to split these up. But the nice thing about text split is that it can take an array. So if I have, again, you could just type them out, but I'm going to do it with a formula. If I have a sequence of 10 starting from 0, which gives me 0 to 9, and a semicolon, then I can text split this on that whole array, and it'll split it every time, whoops, sorry, it'll split it every time one of those characters appears. And now we get a much longer list of splits because it's kind of splitting between every digit and other things. So I'm going to say ignore empties, and that gives me this. And then I could take the first, or I could take unique or whatever. But that's another way to get the problem character. And hopefully we'll find that these are all the same. And they are, so that's good. So call that PC no regex. So once you have the problem character, the easiest thing is just to say substitute, just like we did in level 1. This for this to blank. And now we just have our numbers and semicolons. Then we can text split that on a semicolon. Actually, let's do it horizontally, because then it won't have the spill error. So we get all these, and then we just want to sum them up. But I mentioned earlier that what we get out here is numbers as text. So if I say is number on this, the answer is false, because it's a number stored as text. It's a string containing 8752, which is distinct from, but not as strictly distinct from in Excel as in some other programming languages, from the number. When I say not as strictly distinct, what I mean is if I do some math on it, like multiply by 1, or like what you saw earlier, if I put it into the date function, put it somewhere where it's expecting a number, then it'll say, okay, fine, I get it, you mean a number. So the sum function is designed to ignore text and booleans and other things. But if you directly multiply it by 1 or add 0 or whatever, then it says, okay, you're trying to do math on this thing, therefore you want to treat it as a number. And then once you've done that, then you can sum it up. And hopefully 585, 489, yes, that matches the example. And I guess I'll just take it out of here and put it over here. And our hints are 717, 719, 571, 717, 719, 571. Good. Okay, level 6. Hard. Holy horrors. Scary emojis have eaten our numbers. Each scary emoji replaces a particular numeral as shown in the table on the right. Important note, each emoji has a length of 2 characters. Each game has 40 numbers separated by semicolons. Sum the numbers. Okay, so a lot of different things going on here. Let's start with this length 2 business. So if I select those and say len, each of these is of length 2. Now, you're probably used to, if you've used the len function, you're used to thinking, every character is of length 1. So ABC is of length 3. But if I take this and say ABC pumpkin, that's of length 5. So a couple of things you can do here. One, if you have a newish version, you can go to compatibility versions and switch to version 2, because in version 2 they've fixed a bunch of this stuff. So now these are all of length 1, and this is of length 4, and so on. But just in case you don't have that, let's show you some ways to work around it. We'll go back to version 1. So these all go back to being 2s. So let's just show you what this looks like. It's a little confusing. If I concatenate all this, if I take the length of that, it'll be 20 because it's 10 characters, 10 double width characters long. If I take the left of it, it'll give me the pumpkin. Or, if I take left 3, for example, it'll give me the first 3 compound characters. But if I take mid of this, starting in position 1 and give me 3 characters, it'll give me the pumpkin. If I say 4, it'll give me the pumpkin and the snake. So it's just kind of weird the way they behave. So that's just something to watch out for. So how are we going to deal with that? Well, first things first, we're going to want to text split this by a semicolon. So that these are all our numbers. And then we want to convert these back into numbers, which means we want to replace each of these with each of these. To do that, it's going to be easiest if we can split these up into characters. Or I'll briefly say you could do a bunch of substitutes, like substitute this, replace pumpkin with 0, and then do that a bunch of times. So like you could copy paste substitute many times, or you could do reduce this through, let's say, this lambda a v. I'm going to substitute in a, replace, I'm going to say index, oops, sorry, what just happened there? Substitute a index this by v plus 1. So in other words, when v is 0, I want row 1. When v is 1, I want row 2, and so on. And replace that with v. And that would work. That gets you back your numbers, and then you can multiply by 1, and you can sum them up. Again, multiply by 1 because they're as text. So that works, but reduce is a little hairy, and it's a little more heavy duty than what we need right now. So let me show you one other thing before I go on. So you've probably seen something like this as a way of splitting a text string into its individual characters, sets of emoji, etc. But you can't do that on this because it splits each emoji into 2 characters, and often those characters don't render individually, or if they do, they show up as error messages or other weird things. But if I divide this length by 2, because I know I'm only looking for half that many characters, and if I say start at 1 in steps of 2, and then I say take 2 at a time, then it does split up. So what's going on here? We're saying basically all the odd starting positions. So this ghost, just zoom in on this ghost. This ghost is positions 1 and 2. This devil or whatever it is positions 3 and 4. Octopus 5 and 6, and snake, I guess, 7 and 8. So I'm saying from position 1, give me 2 characters, that gives me the ghost. From position 3, give me 2 characters, that gives me the devil, and so on down. So I basically just want to apply that to the whole thing, and then I can look them up one by one. Before I do that, let's just do a check to see how long any of them get. So I'm going to do max of len of text split of this by that, and it looks like the longest length is always 10, a length of 10 meaning 5 characters. So you can see that here, but it's worth just checking that in the rest of your data, that none of them is more than 5 characters. So I'll just put this version over here with the reduce. Actually, sorry, I need to put this inside that so it'll still work when I've finished messing around with other things. Then for this one, we can say mid of this sequence, comma, so that it'll go across columns, because this is going down a row, and my sequence is going to go across. So if I kind of use mid with one thing going down and one thing going across, it'll broadcast to give me a 2-dimensional array that does both. So we're going to do a sequence of 5, starting in 1 in steps of 2. And we're going to take 2 characters at a time, and that splits that out nicely. And then I want to XLOOKUP each of those in here, lock, returning from here, lock, and we'll say if not found, blank. And then that gives me my numbers. So I've got 6832 and 14260 and so on. And then I'm going to, I want to concatenate each row of that. So I'm going to say by row concat. That puts them back together as numbers. And again, we just need to multiply by 1, and then we can sum them up. So a couple of different options for how to tackle that one. But I'm going to keep this one because I think it's a little bit the easier one. Okay, and again, let's just quickly check our hints. So 886-542-784, 886-542-784, good. Level 7, what a nightmare. More data mashed together within a single cell. Individual values are separated by semicolons, i.e. semicolon. Total of 100 transactions are given for each game number. Data for a single transaction contains date, item, color, and units sold. Determine the units sold for the designated color within the 100 transactions. Okay, so here we have a date, semicolon, whatever, an item, semicolon, a color, semicolon, and an amount, and then it continues in the same way. So the first thing we'll do is text split. This, we'll do it vertically by, actually, sorry, no, we'll do it horizontally by semicolon. So that splits it out, but it splits it out all into one big blob. A very helpful function to know here is wrap rows. So you can wrap this into rows of size 4. And now we have our data more or less back. So now I want to do a couple of things with this. I want to say if this is the target color, then give me that, and sum them up. So because I want to use this twice, and I don't want to recalculate it both times, I'm going to say let data be that. So now I've stored data and I can do different things with it. So for example, I could do hstack, hstack choose calls data 3 and choose calls data 4. And if you're looking at that and thinking you could just say choose calls 3, 4, you numpty, then it is true that I could do that, but I'm not going to end up hstacking. I'm going to end up doing something else. So now I want to say this is equal to silver. And let's just keep an eye on, so the first few are not silver. This one here is silver. This one here is silver. So when I hit enter there, you see that one turns into a true, that one turns into a true. And then finally, we're just going to say if that first thing is true, then give me this multiplied by 1 to convert it into a number, otherwise 0. And now we get the numbers where there's silver and 0 everywhere else. And then we can sum that up. That's right, 81884, yes. And again, we'll just check the hints, so it should be 51, 45, 47, 51, 45, 47. Okay, good. So now let's take a look at the bonuses. In level 1, excluding the example, what is the sum of the character codes of the unwanted characters? Sum of code. So I guess let's just do a quick aside on code and char. If you have a letter or some other characters, you can take the code of that to turn it into a number, and the char of a code to turn it back into a character. That's using ASCII codes. You can also do the same thing with a much larger set of codes by using Unicode and Unichar, which will just recognize a lot more symbols. So in this case, we're just looking to say sum of code of the unwanted characters. Okay, in the data tab, how many transactions take place in March across all years? So again, a few different ways you can do this. Possibly the fastest, or at least one of the easiest, would just be to say, I'll come over here and select March, and select March, and select March, and then just look down here, it's 498 rows found. My guess is the way that a lot of people would go for this would be to say month of that, that is a new column, and then you just need to filter on that equals 3 for March, and again you get the 498. But the way that I would most naturally do it now, and that you might get toward, depending on how formula-ish you end up being, would be to say month of t-date equals 3. So month of t-date equals 3 will return true if the month is 3, meaning March, and false otherwise. And then the minus minus, or we've been using 1 times in other places, or 0 plus or whatever, is just saying do math with that. So just like a number stored as text gets converted into a number, in this case a Boolean true or false gets converted into a number as well. And when it gets converted, true becomes 1 and a false becomes 0. So 1 times month of a date equals 3 will return 1 if it's a date in March, and 0 if it's not, and then you can just sum those up. In the data tab, what is the total units sold for the item with the most units sold? Okay, so I mean, not a crazy way to do this is a pivot table. It's just Alt-DP finish, and then I want item, and I want units sold, and then I just want to sort descending, and the question is the number of, yes, total units sold. So you just link that in there. But again, that's not how I would do it now. There was a time, but now I would be more inclined to say group by items, units sold, sum, and that'll give you basically the same thing as the pivot table, and then you just say 0, 0 to just get rid of the totals, and then the sort order, I want to sort descending on the second column, which you put in as -2, and so now this is, actually I didn't need to get rid of the total for this one, but it doesn't matter. So I'm interested in what is the item with the most units sold. So it's that number there, which is index this, row 1, column 2. I just got that formula and put it over here. Okay, in the data tab, what is the total units sold for the item and color combination with the second to lowest total units sold? So a couple of options here. Again, you can group by. So I'm just going to do it the way I would most naturally do it, and then I'll explain the nuances. So 0, 0, and then I'm going to sort by column 2 ascending, and that's going to give me what is it, the second lowest total. Okay, so then I can say index of that, row 2, column 2 is going to give me this number here, 57,294. And we'll put that back over there. Now, you'll notice that I combined these two into one column. You can give group by multiple columns, so you can group by item and color, units sold and sum, and then say no totals, and then sort order would be 3 to sort in ascending order on the third column. But what you get if you do that is it sorts within each category. So first you get the blinks, I guess, because that's the item with the lowest total, and then within that the colors sorted by lowest total, and so on. So I only mention this to say, be aware of this, that this is a thing. And it's actually probably easier to see if I don't turn off totals. Then you can see, okay, there's the blinks with the lowest total, sticks with the second lowest total, and so on down. And within each one, it sorts by the thing. And then at the bottom, you get a grand total. So what you can do, there's this option over here, which is field relationship. So by default, it's hierarchical, meaning, the first listed one is the sort of primary category, and then the color is a subset of that. The second listed one is a subset of that. But if you go to table option, then it'll sort, with each pair independently, and then you can do the same thing. You can do index row 2, column 3, and you get the same number, 57,294. That's just something to be aware of if you use group by. I find it easier to just combine them into one if you're trying to do that kind of sort. Okay. Last question. In level 5, excluding the example, how many numbers of the 20 by 50 numbers included at least 1 3? Do not double count more than 1 3 within a single number. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do this just because, it's the last bonus on the last question. If you've made it this far, then hopefully you feel some degree of comfort with single cell solutions, or you feel like you might be willing to stretch and try. So what I'm going to do is join all the level 5 numbers, here we are, all the level 5 numbers into one giant string. So that'll be a string with 1,000 numbers. Then I'm going to text split that by a semicolon, so that'll give me the list of 1,000 numbers. Let me just put this over here for a second so you can see. So, here's the ones polluted with a %, and here's ones polluted with psi, and ones polluted with other things, and so on. They all just get combined into one. And then I'm going to search for 3 within that. And sorry, again, I should just really take it out here until I'm finished and then put it back. I would be pretty comfortable just writing this myself, but I want to be able to show you what I'm doing. So this gives a value error, meaning there was no 3 found, value, value, value. Here it says 3, meaning there was a 3 found in position 3, 3 found in position 1, position 4. All I'm interested in is, was it found at all? And for that, I can wrap that in is number. So it gives me false, 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 true, false, 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 true, true, etc. And again, same as before, I can 1 times or minus minus to convert that to zeros and ones, and then sum to get the total. And that's it. Okay, I'm going to quickly go check that I have in fact got the answers right and correct anything I haven't, but otherwise I think that's it. Okay, confirmed, everything checked out. That's all I've got for today. There'll be another weekend battle next month, and yeah, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.